Hello, so today we're talking about, it's not particularly a unique opinion on my part, but we're going to talk about how The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild revolutionized what we can all agree is one of gaming's most beloved series. Back in 2017, when this game was released, the game quickly became this sort of like benchmark and landmark title for Nintendo and just open world design in general, right? With so many other game developers, in the subsequent years, because we're like 7 years removed from it now, and a sequel removed from it. So many developers have gone like, yeah, like we looked at Breath of the Wild, right? And you see that with that's been discussed with development of games like even like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which I really really love. So let's talk about this game, which was intended to be a Wii U game. It was released at Wii U, but they ended up doing it as kind of a transitional game, a cross-generational game, and it came out in that killer first year and release cycle on the Nintendo Switch. Okay, so first and foremost, Breath of the Wild introduced a truly open world experience. Unlike previous Zelda games where you had, maybe like an open area, like, Hyrule Field in Ocarina of Time, or the interconnected maps have existed since the first game, A Link to the Past, whatever. Here was the first time we were given kind of like unparalleled freedom to explore Hyrule, and you can make a beeline immediately for like Ganon. It's wild, right? From the start, you could climb any mountain, you could swim across any river, you can glide through the skies, right? This sense of exploration and adventure is a defining feature. And the world is very clearly intentionally designed. It's not like procedurally generated whatever and just filling it with crap. There is a lot of creativity and excitement sort of like within the world. And the world itself feels like a dungeon. Something they clearly tried for the first time in Skyward Sword. Or in Skyward Sword, it kind of felt like although it was the world was kind of linear and it's kind of like a big corridor, especially because how you're locked in with that control, the motion control. You could tell in that game they were like, doing this thing of, hey, what if there's like adventure and puzzles and everywhere's a dungeon? And it's designed that way, as I'm saying. It's not just sort of like slapped together and generated. Same thing happens in this game, but just like on steroids to such a huge scale. Open world games, they generally... I saw this meme where it was like, linear games, and it was like the character, a treasure chest, and a monster. And it was like open world game, character, treasure chest, monster. Sometimes these open world games just feel like they just span out the environment. They just make it longer for you to walk places, and what you do find there is not necessarily captivating or engaging for that matter. And I start to think of like Ubisoft open world fatigue and stuff like that. This game really got it right in its open world. Speaking of that open world and kind of its marriage with the dungeons, another major change is the shift from those traditional dungeons that you would get in the Zelda games. Although, as I was saying, Skyward Sword did sort of, start to move away from that to the shrines and the divine beasts. Now, the divine beasts do essentially act as dungeons, right? But the shrines are all these kind of like mini dungeon rooms which you find across the place. There's over 100 in the game, and they're each offering unique puzzles and challenges which can be incredibly, incredibly fun. And this sort of modular approach allows for a really flexible gameplay experience, so the players can choose which shrines to tackle, if at all, and when. Right? That's something that's really, really, really cool about this game. It also introduced the robust survival and crafting system. Now, in some games, this kind of gets a bit overwhelming when there's like, so much emphasis on food and sleep and resource management. But I think they meet a kind of nice balance here, right? Gathering ingredients to cook meals and elixirs is essential for surviving in the wild. And it adds this kind of layer of strategy and resource management, which is a fresh departure from previous games. And I don't think it's I don't think it's too much. I don't think it's too much. I don't think it's overbearing, right? And it kind of has a nice in symbiotic relationship with the environment. Like everything here is kind of like feeding into each other, which is really cool. You know, like the environment is the dungeon. The environment is finding the things for crafting. You're crafting the things for the environmental interaction in Breath of the Wild. It's another like groundbreaking feature when you look at kind of what came before, and I think within just how well it's also done within the open world genre. The weather and physics play a significant role in the gameplay. The physics especially completely expanded in Tears of the Kingdom, but we'll get to that later. Rain makes climbing more difficult. Lightning can strike metal objects if you have those equipped. Using fire can create updrafts for gliding. And this dynamic world requires the players to think creatively and adapt to those ever-changing conditions. I thought it was really cool. I thought it was actually really cool. That kind of like the survival aspect in this I do enjoy. Combat as well, right? Weapons now have durability and can break. Now I know there's some people who don't like this, but I do really like this because it forces you to use different things. It forces you to try different things. If you just had your sword and you liked your sword and your sword lasted forever, you wouldn't try the different stuff. But you end up, as a consequence, trying the club, trying the spear, trying everything you get your hands on because of the limited lifespan of them, right? It encourages, it puts players in a situation where it makes sense to constantly seek out equipment and new weapons and try them out. It adds a level of tension and variety to battles as well. You're in like a boss fight and you've got this weapon that you know you can use really well, and then it breaks and you have to switch to something. I don't know. It's really, really cool. It's really, really cool. The storytelling, again, is less linear because you've got that sort of, option of choice of where you want to go. While there is this main quest, which you can actually just make a beeline for the ending for, the numerous side quests and character interactions enrich the narrative and provide a much deeper connection to the world. Hyrule feels really alive here. Not that it ever felt like a dull place, but because these interactions and these flashbacks and whatever, it's really cool. And you can uncover that story at your own pace, adding to that personalized experience. This is a game where you talk to people and they tell you different things based on that really like personalized experience and order they did things in. It's really cool. In summary, for me, Breath of the Wild's something that it not just redefined the series by embracing an open world design, introducing these new gameplay mechanics, encouraging creativity and exploration, and interaction and relation with the world, like never really before. But it also had a much further influence on how other games do this and move away from that kind of Ubisoft bland, checkpoint on the map, waypoint, open world sort of thing, which at least I've never been into, and I think people who even were into it kind of had that like Ubisoft fatigue. I do think though it is in general it's a bit of a testament to how a classic franchise can innovate itself, but while still honoring its roots, it still feels like a Zelda game. What a cool game it is. What a really, really cool game it is. It's up there. Games like this and games like Elden Ring are up there and like instant classics for like a reason, right? It's because they offer these really personalized but high quality experiences. Yeah. Okay, sure. Far Cry, whatever. Far Cry 53. Yeah, that's got a real personalized experience to you as well, but you're not going to get the really special moments that come from the lovingly designed mechanics and, expertly designed environments that happen here. I could play this game again and go have like a completely different, really cool experience. And the sequel's badass too as well, but that's for another day, right?